This is Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur with your host, Lynn Freest. Lynn will share ideas and expert advice from people that are walking in your shoes and living their encore careers, where they want and at the pace they want. You'll start a company of one with confidence and knowledge to live a fulfilled life of freedom and ease. Lynn is a coach and leadership consultant whose mission is to show senior leaders and experts how to start something refreshing and new after a full career in the corporate environment.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur. I always want to thank you for listening to what we're sharing here. This is episode 139, and it's titled The Power of Peer Groups in Creating an Encore Career. So, making the leap from being a corporate leader and an expert into becoming a solopreneur can be daunting, but the rewards are great. You can work when you want, where you want, and you can do the work you love. And I can be that guide and thinking partner to help you. As your coach, I'll help you go farther and faster based on what I've learned from being on this journey for several years. So if you're even having some thoughts about starting an Encore career, please contact me, take the self-assessment quiz, which can help you get some clarity around what you might be possible for you in the future. And after you listen to the podcast, I encourage you to visit my website. There'll be a PDF there that you could use as a guide for exploring the ideas of this episode. So again, today, this is about the power of peer groups in creating an encore career. And we're going to be talking about my good friend and mentor, Jonathan Milligan, on how he's helping entrepreneurs develop their business through training, coaching, and live events. I first worked with Jonathan when I was getting started in my own journey, and now I'm a member in a group coaching practice. Jonathan will share how he got started, how he grew his business and developed it. He will share after creating a successful business, he then moved to a deeper question. Am I making a difference as well as making money? Jonathan will then share how he found that the importance of building relationships was just as important as providing the knowledge that people needed to grow their business. Then we'll talk about how he added the elements of hosting live events and added in the group and peer coaching to help people even more. Finally, Jonathan will share what he found as one of the key things as far as helping people develop, which was having them feel like they're heard and developing their own story, developing their own thinking around what he's teaching them. So it's not just about teaching, it's also about being heard. Well, again, many thanks to Jonathan for sharing his time and his expertise with us. And to get started here, maybe, Jonathan, you could just give a quick preview of yourself, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Absolutely. And I always love talking with you, Lynn. You've always got lots of insights, and I'm learning from you all the time. So we just had a call, I think it was earlier this week, and you were teaching me some things. So I'm sure we'll have a rich discussion today. But I started as a high school teacher and wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. Long story short, I ended up starting a blog offering career advice to accounting professionals. And over the course of about 2.5 years, built that up to where I could do that full time. Then people started asking me, how did you take something like that and build a business online? And so since 2011, I've been teaching others how to take something they're passionate about or experience they have, skills and knowledge they have, and help them to build a business online through writing, speaking, coaching, in kind of the primary ways.
Sure. And, you've written a book on it, so we can always say that. But I know your coaching, the work you do extends far beyond the book. So what was your thinking as you kind of expanded what you were doing?
So when I first started getting started like teaching others, I was looking for ways to scale beyond exchanging time for dollars, right? I mean, that's where a lot of people are, and that's where I was. And so I decided to package my knowledge of how I'd built that online business into a course, which back then was originally called Blogging Your Passion University. And, it was great. We were growing the business year after year, but there is another side to it. And this was something that I started realizing after doing that for a couple of years. I started, number one, realizing that I wasn't getting as much feedback from people. Like, they would buy the course, and it was like every once in a while I would hear man, this has been a great course, or that's wonderful, but it was like few and far between. And in the back of my mind, Lynn, I was wondering, am I really making a difference? People are investing in this, they're buying it, so it's obviously a need. But how do I know if I'm making a difference? And it's like once you start solving the income, which a lot of businesses want to do, you begin to think about actually making an impact. Am I making an impact, not just making money? And that's when I had to start deciding, you know what, Jonathan? And I remember having this conversation with myself. You're kind of hiding behind the blog, right? You're email marketing, you are getting people to buy your courses, but you're not really rubbing shoulders with people. And I remember back then deciding to actually, the first thing I did, Lynn, was I reached out and asked people who had taken the course, if they, back in the day, it was Google Hangouts, if they'd be willing to jump on Google Hangouts and do a focus group. So I could just ask questions. What do you like about it? What do you don't like about it? And I remember walking away from that with such a buzz, like that was so much fun. And you know what? I'm an introvert. So for people listening, if you're more of an extrovert, you're probably thinking I'm crazy, but it's like, for me, I was thinking, I'm an introvert. I want to just do introvert things where I can keep a safe distance. But yet we all still have a need for relationships and we want to make a difference. We want to make an impact. And so that's what kind of got stirred in me.
Sure. And full disclosure, I've been working with Jonathan for quite a few years. And in fact, I think I went to one of your first live events.
The very first in-person live event. Yes.
And you helped me get started in this whole business back when I was just getting started. And we've worked on and off again. And now we work pretty much a lot of the time together. So again, many thanks. So Jonathan, as you started building that, and I know now you've got the book about Market Your Message or Your Message Matters. What was this next step that you've already done it before the book, I know, but this extended step, I guess, to how to help people and support people farther than just a simple course?
So I had two things that I wanted to work on. One of them was an annual live event in person, which also, because of COVID, we ended up doing virtual. So it's become a hybrid. So I wanted to do a live event that went with the book, just as a way to bring the community together, right? It's not even about me as one of the main teachers at the event. It's about people rubbing shoulders with other people. Like I heard it said once that, to build a tribe, you just need to get people with like-minded passions together. Like you're the leader because you're bringing like-minded people together. And that's what I wanted with the live event. And then the second thing is I wanted to do a more of a group coaching model. And, when it started out, it was just me, two masterminds. You were in that, Lynn, and slowly grew that over time to adding coaches. And along with that, create courses. So and we could dig into either one or both of these. But ultimately what it was I wanted to give some learning because we need step-by-step instruction, but I also wanted them to have the coaching and the mastermind to get the feedback and help them to actually apply what they were learning. And that's what we do in our Insider program. So we could talk more about the live event or we can go the group coaching route, whatever.
Well, I was going to spend a few minutes on the group coaching because I've always felt that model is excellent. And it certainly has been for me because being with a group of people who may have different business intents, but are on the same journey is invaluable because even though you can provide great insight, it's amazing the number of ideas I know I get from working with a group of people on the issue. And I'm sure you've had that same experience.
Yeah. And if you do it right, here's what happens. So people come for the mentor, but they stay for the community. And so that's what we've seen is we've got people that have been in the program for a few years because it's like a family to them and they get the inspiration they need because especially what we're doing, building a business is hard work. It takes time. You have to be willing to kind of be in this thing, right? Like when I first started, it took me a couple of years to kind of figure things out. And even then, it probably took me an additional 3 or 4 years to really feel like I got the business where it was starting to become sustainable. So this could be that's not to say it can't happen sooner because there is a lot of tools we have today that I did not have back then. So things can happen a little bit sooner these days. But yeah, it takes time. And with that, you need a community that's there to support you. And that's what the group coaching program does that we have.
Yeah. And certainly, again, that's been my experience is that when I started, I was in my basement working on classes and courses, and it's kind of a lonely way to start your business. Even if you, in fact, want to be a company of one, it can be lonely. So having these masterminds or group coaching, it just makes it a whole lot easier. And plus, your family and friends can't always support you because they don't understand what you're up to. And they may not
absolutely
even agree with it. But having a group of like-minded people is just so invaluable in my eyes.
Yeah, it is. I remember like 4 years into blogging, I finally met in person at a coffee shop at Starbucks because they were traveling through. They were kind of on vacation coming back through. A person who was also doing full-time blogging. This was probably back, 2012. And I remember as an introvert, I was not an introvert that day. I was talking this guy's ear off because I'd never met someone in person who was doing the thing that I was doing. And so that's the power of community.
Yeah. Then I guess switching on to the live event, that has its own unique power to it too, I think. And what's been your experiences? Now you've done it several times. So
yeah. So my recommendation would be start small and be okay with starting small. Lynn, you were at that first one we did, and we limited it to just 15 people. And that helped me from the logistics side to be like, okay, I'm only figuring out how to feed or have a space for 10 or 15 people. That's more doable. And then I think we didn't do anything that next year, but then the year after that, I did at that time, it was called Blogging Your Passion Live. And I did it on a whim. Like I gave 90 days notice that I was doing this thing, but I just got, a little bit bigger room, and we probably had maybe 30 people at that one. And then the next one was, the same event, Blogging Your Passion Live. And that one, we ended up having 50 or 60, and I did it near the airport. And then during COVID, we did all virtual. So I don't remember how many we had on that one, but finally last year we were able to do an in-person one again. And that one was around 100 when you add virtual and in-person. So you can see where it started as 15 and it slowly has grown every single year. And that's okay. Be okay with that. Because one of the things I struggled with, Lynn, was like, I'm going to say I'm doing this live event, and then what if nobody shows up? Well, the way that you do that is your first one limited. Say, this is only going to be for about 10 or 15 people. And if you need to invite some, family or friends or people from your church who have an interest in what you do, you could comp them a ticket to come to this and just get started. So if you've been wanting to do some kind of a live event, don't let the bigness intimidate you. You can start small.
Yeah. And I think too, this helps because getting like-minded people together, while you may be the primary presenter, there's all the hallway conversations. And that's so rewarding to everybody that whenever I've been to these live events, and I'll give you kudos for your virtual events. You made some allowance for hallway conversations in the virtual events too. So, all of that I think is, in addition, very valuable to the material you're presenting.
Yeah. Years ago, I asked someone who did a lot of live events, like that was their main source of income. What's your number one tip with having a good live event? And I'll never forget what they said. If you can get the attendees talking, you're going to win. Because what happens at a lot of events is you're just sitting there, you're listening, you're consuming all this information. You don't really know anybody else in the room. But we intentionally set it up where we're at round tables. I teach for about 20 minutes, and then I give you a 10-minute personal exercise. So you can kind of think through some things of basically what I just taught. That's the teacher in me. I'm wanting you to actually apply what you just heard. And then we discuss it. We discuss it around tables on our virtual. We send people into breakout rooms. And if people feel heard more than being taught, you have a successful event. And I think that's one of the keys that we lean into. Even last year, we had people who they ended up forming a mastermind on their own from people they met at the event and carried it over throughout the year. So you can make some really powerful friendships from a live event.
Yeah. And I really believe that's so powerful because I've been to conferences where it's just one presentation after another, and you end up just overwhelmed by the amount of stuff you've taken in. Whereas in this format, you actually get to talk about what you've learned. And I think that really helps you take it in and really make it part of what you try to do going forward. So that's being able to talk about it is invaluable in my eyes.
And that's a very good point. There's a lot of those conferences and hey, I go to them, it is what it is. But I've intentionally with my events decided not to bring in a bunch of outside speakers because I don't want to confuse my audience. I want to keep it because what could happen is, and I've been to those events where it's like the first person gets up and speaks and is like, you need to follow your passion. Follow your passion. That's what's going to keep you going. And this is so important. And then the very next meeting, this actually happened at an event. I'm using it as an example, but this actually happened. The very next speaker, his talk, he didn't even listen to the first speaker. So yeah, it wasn't like he was trying to be antagonistic. His was, don't follow your passion. You got to find stuff that makes money. Because at the end of the day, a business is about earning revenue. And I was sitting there looking around at everybody and you could see just people are confused. So we're intentional about that. Now, who we are leaning into started getting more speakers other than me are people from our own community. Some of our coaches, some of the people in our community that understand kind of the roadmap and what we're teaching to be able to teach too. And I think that's very important with pulling off a good event in my eyes. There's those events and I'm not being too critical, but that's how I feel about pulling off a good event.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, thinking of, again, the audience we have that are wanting to start their companies of one and stuff like that. One of the things I've really been impressed with you, Jonathan, is you have a very detailed roadmap. So for those of us that want to do it yourself and all that, you spend a lot of time putting together both the step-by-step technical skills as well as the opportunity, to have people talk about it as they go through implementing. I'm sure that was all intentional too.
Yeah, we wanted to implement, I think about growing up, getting introduced to Nintendo and playing Super Mario Brothers. And when you're playing a video game, it doesn't start off super hard. It's like you're basic, you got to jump over the mushroom, right? But by the time you get to the third or fourth world, now you're learning skills that you didn't learn in the first world. You're trying to swim, hit the button to swim underwater, and you're trying to avoid things, and you're skill building along the way. And it just presents a little bit more challenge, but you feel like you're making progress. So that's what we have in our group coaching is we have the roadmap, and the roadmap are a set of courses right now from level 1 to level 7. And depending on what you need in your business, you get plugged in at a certain level. So once you complete that level, we celebrate you, you graduate, we send you a certificate in the mail, and then we unlock a new course for you, which is exciting. And you get to join a new mastermind and you get a new coach who are all focused on that particular part of the roadmap. So it could, for example, one of our roadmaps is for people who want to write a book. So it could be incredibly powerful if you're showing up to that mastermind and you've got a writing coach. Everyone's talking about how they're doing writing their book, and it's got a lot of synergy with it, as opposed to, a beginner talking with someone who's talking about, advanced automation follow-up from webinar. And it's like, the advanced person doesn't necessarily want to be in there with the beginner, and the beginner feels overwhelmed by the advanced person. And so that's why we structure it the way we do it. And it's been fun to see.
Yeah. Well, and I remember again, when I started my journey, there was obviously all kinds of resources in the world out there and say, well, gee, I need to learn these 20 different things. And pretty soon I end up overwhelmed going, okay, but having 20 points of focus is a little hard. And that's what I found so powerful about your work with the insiders is that you can give people a variety of paths, but still they can do the next best thing and not have to worry about all the other technology or all the other processes that they'll need somewhere along the line.
Yes, we have a saying called your DTN, and it's literally an acronym. It's like, do this next. And it's a way for us to kind of help people get back on track, because it's easy for that squirrel syndrome to come in, right? Where it's just like, what was that? Maybe I need to do that, or maybe I should be doing this. And we find our energy spread out in a lot of different places. What we need to do is take a deep breath and say, what is my DTN? What is my do this next thing? And the roadmap makes it a little bit easier, because it's like, this is your DTN. Are you doing it? that's been, I think, really helpful. We still got a ways to go to drill that in to people, but we're still always talking about it and bringing people back around to it.
Yeah. And another thing about your roadmap is the steps are fairly small. You've got videos that explain this, that, or, an element, but it's a 5-minute video. And then there's things you can do, so it's not like even the one about writing the book. Well, it's not just write the book and here's a big long video. It's pieces. Here's how you step by step work your way through the process of writing a book. And again, that helps lower the overwhelm than me sitting there just saying, oh, I go from nothing to a book in one big step, huh?
Yes. And you know what? I can't tell you how many courses. I'm talking about courses that you got to pay a lot of money for, that I've paid a lot of money for. And it's like one video is 5 minutes and the next video is 45 minutes. And I'm like, huh? And there's so much in that 45-minute video. It's like later, I'm like, how do I find that again? And it's funny because I kind of discovered this by accident way back in the day when I created my very first course. It was expensive to find software back then in 2010 to edit your videos and record videos, get them on your computer, host them. And so it was it would have been like a $300 investment for me back then, which I was like, I'm not going to do that. But there was this free software back then. It was called Jing. I don't know if it's still around, but they allowed you to have up to 5 minutes of free recording. So my entire first course, every video had to be under 5 minutes. It's funny because to this day, I still got the videos. Some videos, you hear me speeding up as I'm getting closer to the 5-minute mark because I don't want to re-record this video. I want to get it all in. But what I found, Lynn, is after I released that course, that's the thing people loved. Give me a specific action step, 5 minutes. And one student said, I feel like it's like eating potato chips. It's like, I eat some potato chips and then I'm ready to go to the next one and go to the next one. And it can build momentum if you give just a very specific. So yeah, when you're putting courses together, don't give them 20 actions to take in one video. They'll just get overwhelmed.
Sure. Well, we're kind of wrapping up, and I appreciate everything you've done here, sharing this wisdom, Jonathan. But I'd like you to, let us know about your upcoming live event, and when and where is that?
Yeah, so the live event is happening June 24th and 25th, and it's going to be on a Friday, Saturday. Now, we're going to be in person at Jekyll Island, Georgia. It's going to be at the Jekyll Island Convention Center right there along the beach. It's a beautiful location. So if you want to come in person and just rub shoulders with the writers, speakers, coaches, course creators, then it's 2 days of just a lot of inspiration and a chance to get away. A lot of our attendees are coming a couple of days before or after and bringing family, doing some vacation. But also we have the virtual pass. So you can get close to the same experience virtually on Zoom. So the tickets are the same price. So you just go to yourmessagematterslive.com and you can choose virtual or in person. And we even allow you to swap it leading up to the event. If you choose virtual and then later you're like, man, I really want to come in person, just let us know. Or if you grab an in person and you find out, I can't really go, but I still want to attend virtually, you can swap it to the virtual ticket. So the same price either way. All the information is at yourmessagematterslive.com.
Yeah, and we will include links to that in the show notes, as well as links to your websites and how else to contact you, Jonathan. So again, many thanks.
Thank you for having me, Len.
Again, my deepest thanks to Jonathan for sharing his journey and personally for being a wonderful friend, mentor, and guide in my own journey. In summary, Jonathan shared how after creating his successful business, he moved on to the bigger question, am I making a difference as well as making money? Jonathan shared how he found the importance of building relationships was as important as providing knowledge to people. Then he talked about how he added the elements of having live events and group and peer coaching to help people even more. And finally, he touches on that piece where I think he creates the most impact when people are feeling heard as well as being taught. So finally, remember with an Encore career, the rewards are great. You can work when you want, where you want, and do the work you love. And as your coach, I can help you go farther and faster based on what I've learned on being on this journey for several years. So if you're even having some thoughts about starting an Encore career, please contact me. And after you listen to the podcast, I encourage you to visit my website at linfriest.com and download the PDF that will serve as a guide to this episode. All the links and show notes, the links to Jonathan's events, Jonathan's book, and his website are all included. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.